Let's look at the formation of ionic compounds. So we want to know, how are ionic compounds formed? The first thing that happens is the metal loses electrons. I use E- to show shorthand for electrons. So the metal loses electrons, and this forms a cation. The second thing that happens is the nonmetal gains these electrons that the metal has lost. And when it gains electrons, this forms an anion. Anions are negatively charged, cations are positively charged. One thing that we know about oppositely charged ions is that they attract. So let's look at an example. Let's say we have a lithium ion, or a lithium atom. A lithium atom has a nucleus that has 3 protons. That's what the 3 plus is for. And then around that nucleus, there are 3 electrons. So 1, 2, 3. And then let's say there's a sulfur atom. A sulfur atom has a nucleus with 16 protons. That's what the 16 plus represents. And then around that nucleus, there's 16 electrons. Okay, so I have my sulfur atom with 16 electrons and my lithium atom with 3 electrons. Now, this lithium atom has 1 valence electron. Okay, and so in order to get a full valence shell, lithium really wants to get rid of this 1 valence electron, because underneath this valence shell, there's a valence shell right here that has a full set of electrons. The first energy level only has 2 electrons, but that's still a full valence shell. So lithium wants to lose 1. Sulfur, on the other hand, has 6 valence electrons. In order to get a full set of 8, sulfur really wants to just gain 2. It wants to fill these 2 empty spots in order to get a full valence shell. And so what's going to happen is when these 2 atoms come close to each other, sulfur is going to steal the valence electron from this lithium atom. And then that electron is going to come over here and fill this spot that sulfur is trying to fill. Now, after it gains this electron, sulfur only has 7 valence electrons. And so what it's going to do is it's going to steal an electron from another lithium atom to fill this other spot. And when it does that, it will now have a full set of 8 valence electrons. Okay? Now, when this transfer of electrons, this is a transfer of electrons. Okay? So when this transfer of electrons occurs, each lithium atom loses 1 electron and now has 3 protons, but only 2 electrons. And so each lithium atom has an overall positive charge. Okay? And then sulfur has 16 protons in it, but after it's gained these 2 extra electrons, it now has 18 electrons. And so it has an overall charge of 2 minus because it's gained 2 electrons. Okay, and then these 2 things are oppositely charged, these lithium atoms and this sulfur atom. The opposite charges, the positives and the minuses, pull them close together and they form an ionic compound. Now, when ionic compounds come together, they form a crystal structure called a lattice. And it's this three-dimensional structure of alternating positive, negative ions. Okay, and they alternate because opposites attract. So in the case of sodium chloride, let's say NaCl, we have a sodium ion, which is positively charged, and a chlorine ion, which is negatively charged, and they come together to form NaCl. Well, they form this lattice-like structure where a positively charged sodium ion attracts a negatively charged chloride ion, which attracts another positively charged sodium ion, so on and so forth. So it creates this like lattice structure. Notice there's alternating ions here. So there's plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, and so on and so forth.